Welcome back to part 2 of our mini-series about pseudoscience. Last time in part 1 we discussed the problem of demarcation, meaning where exactly can you draw the line between science and pseudoscience. And essentially my objection was, don't waste all this time trying to determine an exact line through the gray area, rather try to define as best as you can what the white and the black really is. And now in part 2 we will try to do exactly that. Criteria for science and pseudoscience. Okay, let's start with what we already had in the first video. What is science? That science is a method for checking theories, and this check is done by experiment. And that's actually a really good starting point because it's also the prerequisite for the other two criteria. We have to be able to perform experiments so that we can test our theories. The next criterion is falsifiability, meaning it must be possible to falsify the theory to prove it wrong. To perform an experiment, find that the prediction does not match, so it has been proven wrong. If a theory can never be wrong because it can explain any result, it can never be scientific. Falsifiability as a criterion had already been proposed by Karl Popper, and it holds a lot of merit, but on its own it's not sufficient. Problem with this is you can make predictions which are in theory falsifiable and testable, but not in any practical sense. So we also need the flip side of falsification, which is verification, meaning experiments have been performed and the predictions of a theory have been confirmed, have been found to be true. It is true that a theory can never be fully verified because you can never check all the circumstances and all the options, but still, if it is repeatedly found to be correct, we call it warranted or corroborated. There is this saying in physics that while all of our theories are wrong, some of them are useful because they give the correct results when measured within limitations, of course. And again, on its own, verification would be too weak, but it is part of the puzzle. So in conclusion, science is decided in an experiment, is falsifiable, but warranted, meaning it can be proven wrong, but it has worked so far. Now, while this sounds and looks pretty good, a valid argument can be made that these criteria alone aren't really watertight, that you can game them. You can certainly do experiments that aren't very conclusive or straight up misleading. You can downplay or outright ignore results that would actually falsify your theory, and you could also cherry pick or straight up fabricate results to look like your theory is verified. So you could do something that looks like science and it generates data of some kind and you do experiments of some kind, but none of it would really hold up to scrutiny. And that's exactly what pseudoscience is. You build something that superficially looks like science, but you have no interest in fulfilling the criteria, only in pretending to. And you can do that to some greater or lesser extent. And that's why the difference between science and pseudoscience is so gradual. It's such a gray area. And that's why science is as much a mindset as it is a method. A mindset of individuals and the community as a whole. Question everything, not just the things you don't like. Don't go easy on theories just because you want them to be true. As Richard Feynman said, the first principle is you must not fool yourself. And you are the easiest person to fool. We've been talking about falsification and things being wrong a lot, so one more important point here. When a theory is found to be wrong, that does not mean it isn't scientific. All scientific theories are based on countless abstractions, idealizations, and approximations. So in a fundamental sense, all theories are wrong. So in short, Newtonian mechanics is wrong, but not in the same sense that astrology or homeopathy are wrong. This is a really important point, and it deserves its own future video. Formulating these criteria was the main goal of this video, so having achieved that, it seems like a good place to stop. In the final part coming up soon, we will take a look at a practical example of how pseudoscience works, and we'll also get back to those cargo cults from the introduction. So see you then.